On today's video, we're going to go over how to lubricate our crossbows. Hey there, outdoor YouTubers. Well, like I said earlier, on today's video, we're going to go over how to lubricate our crossbows. And that's going to include waxing the strings, lubricating the rail, and also lubricating some of the other moving parts. Okay, so we're going to start off with waxing our strings and cables. Now, when you're waxing your bowstring, you only want to wax these exposed areas. You don't want to wax these served areas. Okay, so what does waxing your crossbow string do for you? Well, it helps keep your bowstring from drying out, fraying, stiffening up, and it also helps to repel moisture. Now, why do we only want to wax the unserved sections of our crossbow string? Well, one reason that we do it that way is that the areas of the string that are covered with a serving are somewhat protected already. And then another reason that we don't want to wax the served areas of our bowstring is some of those areas do come in contact with the cams or wheels, and we don't want to get a buildup of wax on our cams or wheels. And then another reason that we don't want to wax those served areas of the crossbow string is we don't want those things getting too lubed up. We don't want them loosening up, shifting on the string, or even coming undone. We want to keep those served areas on our crossbow string nice and tight and in place. Okay, so how do we apply string wax to our crossbow string? Well, a lot of times string wax comes in kind of a stick, almost like chapstick. And what you can do is kind of turn the bottom of it, and it drives that string wax out of the applicator even more. And then you just kind of go along and you apply some string wax to those unserved areas of your bowstring. And then after you do that, you want to rub that string wax into the bowstring. You want to actually get it kind of heated up. Now, you can just take your fingers and kind of rub it in, and that does create a little bit of heat. But I like to use like a little piece of leather, all right? And that way it doesn't get like too hot for your fingers, because you want to get it nice and warm, because you actually want to kind of melt that string wax into the string. So you get that wax on the string and just kind of vigorously rub back and forth till it just kind of melts into the string. And kind of a good rule of thumb is that your string should always feel a little bit tacky from the wax. If it doesn't feel tacky, it's probably time to apply some more. Or if you start to notice frays on the bowstring, you'll definitely want to add some more wax too. Now, you may need to wax your bowstrings once a year. You may need to wax them once a week. Just kind of depends on the conditions that you're hunting or shooting in. Now, before we get into the rail lube, I'd like to take a quick time out with a word from my one and only sponsor, Camaro's Crawlers. I'll give that big buck an hour or so until he's doing the dirt nap dance. I'm heading out deer hunting. Time to musk up. Now, you might be thinking I'm going to be using a doe urine like 10-pointer Tinder date or even big buck delight. Nah, this buck gets a special doe urine. It's called Promiscuous Doe Urine. Only available at Camaro's Crawlers. It's illegal in 9 states in all of Canada. Promiscuous doe is the only doe urine
taken from the most sexually active does, so you know it's good. It stings the nostrils. In a good way. They've done studies, you know. 60% of the time, it works every time. If you don't think about it, it makes perfect sense. Let's go see if we can make that big buck grunt. Promiscuous doe. The only doe urine taken from the most sexually active does. And only available at Camaro's Crawlers.
Okay, that was kind of weird. But the next area of our crossbow that we want to lubricate is the shooting rail. The shooting rail is the area of the crossbow where the string and the arrow ride on top of during the shot. A lot of heat and friction is developed here during the shot, and we want to minimize this heat and friction by lubricating the rail. Now, most crossbows do have a shooting rail, but some do not. Some crossbows actually have an arrow rest at the end of the crossbow, and the string and arrow just come forward on the shot just across open air. Pretty similar to how most vertical bows are designed. So if your crossbow doesn't have a shooting rail, obviously you don't have to lubricate it. Now, the type of rail lube that you use on your crossbow seems to vary between manufacturers. Some manufacturers like to use more of a light oil-based type rail lube, and some manufacturers go with a lighter wax type lubricant on the rail. For instance, this Killer Instinct crossbow came with 1 stick of lube, and the manufacturer recommended that you use that lube for the rail and for the strings. And the lube they included was kind of the stick type, kind of more like the wax type lubrication. Then you have this Parker crossbow, and the manufacturer recommends string wax for the strings and a light oil type lubrication for the rail. I know 10 Point recommends a light oil for lubricating the shooting rails of their crossbows, but then Barnett recommends a single wax type product for lubricating the strings and the rail. I know a lot of packages you can buy will come with 2 separate products, one for waxing the strings, one for lubricating the rails. But one combo pack that I really like is this Performance combo pack made by 30-06 Outdoors. It's this Crossbow Snot pack. It actually comes with 3 separate products. It comes with string wax, it comes with rail lube, and it also comes with a little pen oiler, and we'll talk about using that a little further along in this video. So if you're looking for one package that kind of covers it all, this Crossbow Snot Performance 3-pack is a real good option. So which product is right for lubricating a rail? A light wax or a light oil? Well, I don't think either one is wrong. I'm sure you'd be perfectly fine going along with whatever the manufacturer recommends, using a light wax or a light oil on the rail. Both products lubricate the rail. Now, I know I've heard the argument that if you use a wax type rail lube, that you will actually pull that wax back into the trigger box when you cock the crossbow. And that wax can build up in the trigger box, and of course, that can cause problems in the trigger box. But I also can see where it's easier to over lube your rail when you're using the oil type product. Now, no matter what type of rail lube that you use, you don't want to over lube the rail. And then we're back into that possibility of the serving shifting, separating, or even coming loose if it gets too lubed up. Of course, some lubrication will transfer from the rail to that main serving. We just want to make sure that main serving doesn't get drenched in lube. So no matter which lube product that you use, you just want to make sure that you maintain a nice thin sheen of lubrication on that shooting rail at all times. Now, the oil type of rail lube does come in a couple different types of applicators. Some are more of like a tube like this, and they kind of have a sponge at the top, and when you kind of push that sponge down on the rail, a little bit of oil secretes out. While some rail lube is just like a little dispenser of oil, and you just kind of squeeze a drop out onto your rail. And then most of the wax-based rail lube products do come in like the chapstick applicator, but then sometimes it does come in a squeeze type applicator too. And you want to get that rail lube spread out the full length of the shooting rail, from the trigger box all the way to the end of the crossbow, even past where the string will actually travel. You figure that arrow or bolt is sliding across that shooting rail, so you might as well keep it consistent the whole length. Now, I've seen manufacturers recommend that you lubricate the rail anywhere from every 5 shots all the way up to every 50 shots. But for me, I like to add rail lube before each shooting session. Now, that shooting session might be anywhere from 5 to 20 shots, but I'm always checking back after each shot to make sure that there's that nice sheen of rail lube on the rail. And then maybe once or twice a season, I'll rub that rail down with a good clean rag, try to get all the lubrication off of it, and then re-lube it and just kind of start from scratch. And then another thing I like to do, if your crossbow has a cable slide, I like to lubricate the cable slide. And this rail lubrication works pretty well for this. Just the applicator kind of works good for this. This Killer Instinct does have a cable slide, and the cable slide kind of rides on this side of this cable slot. So I like to go in here and I like to put a little bit of this rail snot lubrication in there right behind that cable slide, and then when you cock the crossbow, it drags that lubrication right across and underneath the cable slide, and that'll help keep that cable slide lubed up real well, because there's an awful lot of friction that takes place there too. Now, if your crossbow doesn't have a cable slide, all right, some don't. Some of them just have the strings that just kind of ride back and forth in this cable slot. But if your crossbow doesn't have that cable slide, oftentimes just waxing those strings will add the lubrication that it needs to keep that heat and friction down. And then probably once per season, I like to take one of these little oiling pens and just put a drop of oil on the exposed areas of the axles of your cams or wheels. Now, some manufacturers will recommend putting a drop or two of oil down in the trigger box and in and around the safety. But you're going to want to read your crossbow's owner's manual to whether you want to do that or not. Some like you to oil up the trigger box and the safety, but some don't. With this Parker crossbow, they actually have a trigger box that's designed to be dry, and they recommend that you do not oil it at all. So again, check out your owner's manual to see if you need to oil up that trigger box or that safety. Well guys, I hope this video helps you out with the lubricating of your crossbow. And hey guys, if you want to watch more videos on deer hunting, deer camp, and deer processing, be sure to check out the whole channel. And also, remember to hunt, fish, laugh, repeat. Thanks for watching, and God bless.